Here.
Neat, yeah, here. Couldn't hear there was noise going on.
Kevin Battle,
Present.
Todd Gold,
Nope, he's not here.
and Catherine Menefee.
She's on her way. She will be here, but
Forum Detroit.
Okay. Okay, has everybody read the regular session minutes?
yep.
Sir. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So be it. Okay, then our special session minutes we had also?
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve the special session minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So be it. The President's report, I really don't have much to say on that tonight. How about our citizen participation? What do we have going on there tonight? Nothing? Okay. Then we'll get into our staff presentations then.
Let's see, so calls for last year, so summarizing last year's emergencies. So for the month of December, we ran 13 fires, 72 medicals, 5 vehicle accidents, 3 surf rescues, 13 lift assists, and 4 other assists for a total of 110 calls. And we closed the year out with 1,248 calls for the year. So we did have an increase. I don't have a percentage. It's not much of a percentage, but it is an increase.
Okay.
You guys were busy.
Yep. Training, so we closed out last year's training with a total of 3,067.75 hours for the year. And so far from our last meeting in November till the beginning of January, we had 544 hours completed. So even with the holidays, we still held up quite a bit of training. We also finished our Fire Officer 1 courses and our Firefighter 2 courses, so they're all getting wrapped up and going through certification now. So we're just about where we wanted to be caught up in the first couple of years of my goals of coming here for training wise. And then we'll have the schedule out starting next month for the ropes ops class for everybody. So that'll be the next one we're moving on to. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, so Fire River Station, me and Greg with ProFest, we were just talking about it, we've actually got quite a bit of the roads under control. There's very, very few out there.
Great.
We did have with Co-Energy, a propane faux pas. They thought we were using their computer algorithm, if you will, thought we were using less than what we were. But in the wintertime, I couldn't get up, and so I may have forgot to tell them that too. So we did, for 2 weeks, we were out of propane. When I checked it, I went, oh, wait, what's going on? So I do go out there weekly and check it, either me or Bob. So, but it is back up to going, and now every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, the generator runs for an hour to charge the batteries in the trucks or whatever. And then if the temperature gets below 49 degrees, it'll kick on the generator and fire up the heating system, which is where they didn't have in their computer. They realized we had this huge furnace out there. So at Tidewater, all this apparatus is there. Me and Bob are hopefully going to be there tomorrow. I haven't been able to spend a lot of time there. Other projects that I'll go over here in a minute, but we're going to try to get the brush truck in there and then all of those rigs. It does have power. The propane tank's been ordered. The siding's not done because I'm waiting on backorder parts that are the soffits up top. So as soon as those come in, then we can finish up to it. So it's kind of weird. Anyhow, that's all done. But yeah, the station is respondable from as is. I do have power and outlets. So, and we're kind of working with McKinsey on deciding the plan for the end result when everything's all said and done. So, Station 72, all what we have is good to go as far as apparatus goes. Obviously, we have our new rescue and stuff later on. I think Chief Mason wants us all to go out and take a look at it all. We'll put the night scan up since it'll be dark, so you can see just what 126,000 looms looks like.
Cool.
And then the yes, the new tower.
I heard you guys had it down by the bayfront, people talking, getting the light tower up, trying to go, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it
a
is.
pretty neat rig.
It's bright.
Yeah, I bet.
And it did go on its first call. It didn't do much because it turned out we didn't need it, but it didn't need any equipment. But I did take it on its first call to go to the beach for a beach transfer last Saturday. So, other than that, the network, you guys probably seen that check come through. It's about $2,000. It's the final step of everything is secure. So every one of, anybody who comes in wants to use an apparatus or a desktop has to log in with their username and password. It's centrally monitored. It has a specific character set you have to use for the passwords. And then everything that happens on the network is logged. So we have a VPN, the district file server has been locked down. The Wi-Fi has been changed to where it's got a main point for certain devices like camera systems and whatnot. Those are the only things that are connected to that. Things like personal cell phones, we have a guest network. And then the residence upstairs has its own network. So everything is separated, locked down to where we're now going to hopefully get some insurance discounts from SDA. So, but I also dropped our Microsoft account from $1,900 a year to $99 a year. So kind of everything kind of balances out.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think that's it for me this go around.
My turn?
Your turn.
Okay. So the website had 13,430 page views in December. We also now have the ability to, at the very top of it, you can create an alert, an emergency alert, or just like a notice. We utilized that tsunami advisory, so it had right at the top of the page, and it linked to another page that gave the full advisory. Right now, if you go on there, it's for our Valentine's Day blood drive that's going on, and it takes you right to the flyer and everything, so that's kind of a nice feature to have, that we can just kind of put important stuff right at the top on there. As far as the, so I'm part of the safety committee. Charlie and I have actually started doing the safety committee trainings through SDAO, which will also give us some more discounts on our insurance and stuff. So there's 5 of them the first Thursday of every month, so we'll be doing the next one on February 3rd, I believe, on that. So the only other thing I have is to hopefully finalize the rest of the policy so we can be done. So you have the original policy on there. Everybody had agreed for everything except for policy 9.5. That was the drug and alcohol policy that we were looking at. So you also have the draft one. Of course, the printer doesn't print in color, so you'll see on it that it's grayed out. So in my talks with several of the union members, there was just some things that they wanted taken out, and then a revision on another portion that kind of took care of the parts taken out. So on, I guess that'd be page 2, under drug testing, that kind of got reworded to cover the reasonable suspicion section. And I can read to you what it originally said if you'd like, if you don't remember.
No, that's fine.
We would accept, as long as these extra things were taken out, I believe, regardless
Okay.
of when you last used it, that's what we,
And then the other ones, okay. And then Shai was handing you this, so. So under, on the first page, under the marijuana use, they just would like the words on the second paragraph, first line, where it says if we believe or learn, they would like the word believe or taken out, so it just reads just if we learn. And
Well,
then,
what would that mean though? I mean, so if we believe or
Read the full
learn,
paragraph, it says, if we believe you are high, you could be terminated.
right?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not okay with that.
no, I understand that, Shai, but what I see it says is if we believe or learn you're under the influence of marijuana during work hours, a drug test will be performed. It's not saying if we believe you're high, we're gonna fire you. It says we're gonna do a drug test.
Sure,
Says-
but I'd rather remove it than fight about syntax later.
So the way that you guys have it, it would read, if we learn that you are under the influence of marijuana during work hours, or if a drug test reveals the presence of marijuana in any amount in your system, whether you believe you are impaired at the time, your employment may be terminated, is how you guys have it.
We wanted to see if we believe, then you're employed. Because if you take out all the other stuff, if we believe, then you could be terminated. We just wanted that if we believe. Because I don't want to get fired if somebody thinks I'm high.
But I don't see that it says that, Shai. I see that it says if we believe or learn that you're under the influence of marijuana during the work hours, a drug test will be performed.
So
If
you're gonna
it-
say that, so if that gives you the thing, hey, I think you're high, you have to go pee in a cup. That's random.
What's,
But I think it almost covers you guys better in that sense than your verbiage in a sense, because we're saying, you know, we're not even saying we're gonna terminate, even if you test positive, it may be a situation where we discuss like drug and
Remediation.
alcohol remediation, right? And then, but in yours, it's saying, no matter what, you're terminated, which I don't think we should automatically terminate somebody, no matter what, even if we drug tested positive, right? Like, I still think there should be some sort of backdoor ability to get out of it. So I think loosening yours a little bit to state like, you know, will discuss like possibility of termination. I don't think it should say you will be terminated.
But I also want to put up blanket statement, like, we don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, we're offering our suggestions, how we
Yeah.
like it worded. If ultimately you decide not to word it that way, that's up to you, that's your purview as the board.
so when I'm reading this, I won't repeat what I just said, but then it also says in there that, blah, 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 if you're positive, whether you believe you're impaired at the time or not, your employment may be subject to discipline or termination. It doesn't say anywhere in here that you will definitively be terminated.
No, I understand that.
Yeah,
But I
so-
also, if you read it, okay.
I'm trying to figure out, Shai, what you mean by learn. So how would I learn that somebody?
So, if you read this way, right?
Mhm.
If we believe, take out learn that, blah, blah, blah. If we believe, or a test revealed, okay, if we believe, then your employment may be terminated. So if you take out all that middle stuff, if we believe, you may be terminated.
Where does it say?
Your employment may be
So
terminated.
he's basically saying take out that section.
I don't want
Alright.
that section taken out, I want the believe taken out.
Okay. If we learn that you are under the influence.
Yeah, if you learn that, hey, I saw so-and-so smoking pot before shift, then by all means, drug test us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% support that. We just don't want this, we believe, hey, I think you're high.
Yeah,
Go ahead
yeah.
and go take a drug
I
test.
understand where you're coming from.
Well, what about, okay, so I guess still, I hear your point. I want to say I'm hearing you. Is that, but my part with learn is, how am I learning?
I don't know,
So-
it's in the policy that, all I want is believe taken out, not learn.
Okay.
That's what I want.
So typically,
I
the
appreciate it, Shai.
the terminology for this is, if we have reasonable
So
suspicion
you know.
Yeah.
to believe that you are under the influence.
I like that.
I like
I like that.
It does say
I like that.
If we have reasonable suspicion to
Discipline and.
believe you are under
So-
the influence
that.
Yeah.
of a substance, we have the
Yeah,
right
no,
to
I got it.
Syntax.
I like that.
Yeah.
Period.
Let's do that. Let's do that.
If your test results come back positive, we then have the right to either invoke disciplinary action or up to termination
Up to
of your
termination, yeah.
We
position.
don't disagree with that.
Yeah, because if we
Okay.
say in there, my only problem with saying you will be terminated is because if we say that in there,
Yeah,
and then we go against that, right? And then later on the line, we don't do it with another employee, then
Yep.
we're open for, you know, some
Yep.
sort of liable, right?
Exactly.
And so, I believe if we switch the believe, take out believe, and
Right.
we just put reasonable suspicion.
so is this the only section that we're having
So
with the remainder of this policy?
the
I think so.
the original one on there said just termination. So we added in the discipline and or termination into
Right.
that section.
Right, but so this is the only part in the remainder of this policy that we have any conflict with, right?
The only other thing was the
Okay.
random drug testing. and the reasonable suspicion.
The reasonable suspicion we're adding in right now to that.
And
line
it
we're
was,
just
and it
talking
was
about.
done under just drug testing. It was
Uh-huh.
reworded slightly to cover the reasonable suspicion.
Okay, so we need to make sure that the paragraph that we're talking about right now, though, is changed from believe and learn to if we have reasonable suspicion that you are under the influence of substances, we have the right to send you to testing. If testing reveals that you are positive, we have the right to pursue disciplinary action up to the extent of termination.
Okay.
Agreed.
That needs to be just like that. And then everything else, if there's no other conflicts with it, everything else can stay. And we can finally put this thing to bed.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been a while, like,
It has
we
been
needed
a
to
while,
get
yeah.
this policy manual, because now we can turn around and do an employee handbook, now that we actually have an actual policy book.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Kinda nice.
I would make a motion to accept this policy according to the change in wordage that Chief Mason suggested.
What you said.
okay.
Okay.
You got it. Like-
Seconded.
Thank you. All in-
Thank you.
All right.
Aye.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad that's done too.
So the
I was
next,
hoping we could do that tonight.
Absolutely.
I really
so at the next meeting, I'll have a full policy book put together for each of you. And all staff and volunteers will also get a copy of it. It has a signature page at the very end, just stating that you have received it. And it'll go in, staff and volunteers, it'll go in their personnel file. And then we have a board book that we can put your guys' in, just so that, because it kind of covers you guys too in the beginning
I appreciate that.
and stuff. So I'll have a full one that you can just have.
Okay, yay.
I'm happy to be done with those.
Absolutely. Thank you for your suggestion, Shai, wherever you went. There you are.
Is that all you had for yours, Wendy?
That was all I had.
You want to move into the volunteer report and talk about the parade and the
Yeah.
Santa?
So we participated with Beachcombers in the Christmas Light Parade that went through Old Town. And we had the utility truck and the boat all dressed up like Santa's sleigh and had Santa in it. I had quite a good turnout. And then afterwards, we invited everybody to come back here for kind of a miniature open house and pictures with Santa, because nobody else was doing it in the county. We ended up taking, I think it was 97 photos of people, whether they were in a group or by themselves. And we estimated we had about 325 people total that night. It was a good night. It was,
We were shocked at how
many people showed up.
Yeah, it was huge.
And it didn't last very late because it was on a Thursday. So it was like all the parents with the little kids came in, got in line, got their picture taken and
Get
left
it out. Yeah.
and stuff. So
That's good.
I think Kevin's son even ended up with one of my selfie photo booth things.
Oh, did he steal it? Oh, no.
No,
That was
Did
my
he
wife's
steal
fault.
it?
My wife gave
Chief's
it
wife
to him
gave it
and-
to
and
him,
he
so.
She gave it to him in the, here, have this. So, yeah.
But we had, so we printed out several of the pictures. People had an option of getting a printed picture or emailed picture. The Volunteer Association covered the cost of the printing and mailing of that. And then kind of both the district and the association covered the cost of, because we had goodie bags and hot cider and hot cocoa and stuff like that, letters to Santa and things. So it was a really good turnout, and people seemed to really enjoy it, and kind of want to make, between the parade and our open house, kind of would like to see it become a yearly tradition.
I think that'd be fabulous.
So,
And then to piggyback onto the remainder of the volunteer report, we've gotten in a applicant for a new volunteer who is going through, actually completed background already. And then we have 2 more applications coming in for volunteers on top of that are gonna, once they come in, they're gonna go through their backgrounds, and then we'll start ramping them up. I went and had a conversation with the principal of the high school, and Lieutenant Booker's been working with the high school for getting the groundwork for the cadet program up and
Yay.
running. I went and talked to her, and she is full on board for doing the cadet program, so we're gonna get that put together. But I went up there and I started the dialogue to try to bring the every 15 minutes program to our community. It's a anti-drinking, driving, distracted driving program that targets the high school age children in the community. And it's about a 2-day program where they do a few classes, they do an assembly. We do a mock motor vehicle accident that involves a drunken driver. And then they do some follow-up to that. There's some letters, like if you're writing to your parents for the last time, and there's quite a bit to the agenda of this. And the whole point is we're seeing a lot of vehicle accidents that are resulting with drinking and driving. And so we want to get a program out there that start early and get people aware that drinking and driving not only has consequences, but can cost people their lives. And so this is one of the programs we're trying to get in there. The principal was familiar with the program and definitely wanted to get the program going, so it got sent up to the superintendent. And the superintendent at this point has put the let me think about it for a minute on it, so we don't have an answer from the superintendent just yet. If we get the approval, we'll start working with the program directors and get it all scheduled and brought in here. We'll partner up with Pacific West Ambulance to bring in their ambulances to the scenario. We'll probably partner up with Yachats to have them bring an ambulance into the scenario. We'll partner with Life Flight to have them land a helicopter at the site to pick up one of the students that gets injured in this scenario. And then, of course, we'll roll in with our engine and our rescue and our personnel to do the typical how we handle motor vehicle accidents. The county sheriff's office is going to partner with us and bring their personnel in and do the law enforcement side of it. They'll do a sobriety test of the driver that's suspected of drinking, and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Sounds good.
yeah, hopefully we'll get that up and running. They've invited us to participate in donkey basketball.
Oh,
They want to.
Who's riding?
So there's a weight limit.
So Lindy.
Cody and
So-
John offered, because they're on shift that day.
Yeah. So
Well, we can't get them injured though. Wait,
Oh,
it's
as we
strongly
can't get them injured.
So
We'll
they
have
want
backup
us. They
for
want
you.
us to participate. It's obviously it's a fundraiser for the school,
right.
and it's supposed to be sheriffs and fire versus students. So
Oh.
we're teamed up with the sheriffs.
What sheriffs you got?
We're still waiting for them to give us some names. A lot of them said, "Yeah, I want to do it," and so
Till
we're
it
just
come down
waiting.
to it.
Yeah, so we're just waiting to find out. But it's going to be. I believe the date was February 11th
Get Zach.
at the school. So yeah, Zach would be able to do it.
Zach would be good.
Yeah, I know Doug wants to, but he was saying he might not be here. He might be out of town that week. So, but either way, we'll make it happen. It's
That
for a
would
good
be
charity,
good.
so we'll make it happen, and it'll be a fun event. And you know, the only stipulation is if we get a call, we have to leave. So but that's part of this business.
That's part of it.
So yeah, so we've got a lot going on with the school. This week, Charlie has been providing first aid CPR classes to the school. So he's had, I think, 6 sessions this week, Charlie, is that correct?
6 sessions, yes.
Yeah, so we've been working with them this week to get their first aid CPR up and going. And then also, Charlie does the smoke detector program. And so despite the COVID restrictions, we were still able to get 8 more inspections completed last year. In 2020, we were still able to get 37, even with the start of COVID. And then in 2019, we did 132. And so the restrictions are, obviously we can't go in people's homes and things when there's restrictions, but, unless it's emergency. But it's showing that we're still doing them. Obviously, in 2019, we might have hit that peak, and so we're doing really good. And now as it goes down, we're seeing less and less, and it'll go back up again as batteries, need to be replaced. So, but otherwise, community-wise and with the school and overall, we've got the potential of 3 more volunteers coming in. That'll bring us up to 13.
13 is what 3 new ones?
Yep, and then we've got lots of community programs going on, so we're still moving forward.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll bet Shy is just dying to give his union report.
You know, that's what I live for. I don't die for it. So actually, I don't know a whole lot. Tonight, the union, everybody is aware of the specific letter that was drafted by members of the union, aimed at another particular fire district and the decisions they made as far as staffing goes. I don't want to get into that because it's not a Central Coast issue. However, the union implores the members of this board to get together with the oversight committee, with the members of Steel Rock. We as the union, we see value in working with our neighbors to the north. We see it as value not only as a better response model for the citizens that we serve, but also to keep ourselves safe as well. And we think that's an integral part of the way that we should move forward as far as our responses go. So whatever it takes, even if somebody has to go beat down a door to say, hey, let's meet, we implore that you do that.
Now, that's actually me and Catherine are that committee, and then they have a committee now too.
Perfect. So
That's what we're
I
gonna
just
do.
hope that you guys have reached out, or they have reached out, and you guys have come to
Yeah,
at least a
yeah.
date to meet.
Yeah.
And
No,
see if we could salvage, because from the sounds of it, at the.
Well, because I think last night they give it like a 90-day.
The last meeting, it didn't sound like there was much favor left for that, but also I see a lot of possible misinformation on their end.
I think
I
think we can end up working it out, to be
I would
honest.
like to see at least everything out on the table from both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No, I think
all
it can
members
be,
of the union feel the same way.
I think we can salvage it.
We definitely feel that the IGA, I was speaking with Chief Mason earlier today, I definitely see that the IGA is important for us, for them. We definitely want to open up the lines of communication. They have concerns, and we need to hear what those concerns are. Some of them may be from miseducation or misinformation, but their concerns in the moment for them are valid, and we need to have those conversations. And we're just waiting on a date at this point in time, but they
Next
have,
week they're gonna
next week?
talk about, yeah, let's get together.
Okay, there you go.
That's what we're working on.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, guess who's up?
Well, cash on hand, at the end of December was $1,101,592. And of that, $832,106 were unrestricted or general fund. So that's good shape. Current levy taxes, we've collected $821,092 through the end of December. And we budgeted $831,141. So we only have about 1.2% to go. And we've cleared that now with the recent notices for this one. So, we're on track to have a little bit of a surplus there. Tidewater Station improvements year to date, $35,245. And since the work began, $167,730.
That include the purchase?
Pardon me?
Does that include the purchase?
No, not the land itself, that's just the improvements, that's going all the way back
Okay.
from when all of it started. And we anticipate it to be about 200,000.
Yeah.
So it's running within the market. We made a debt payment in December for the FCBA's, $13,575.11. And the engine ambulance equipment, through the end of December, we spent $20,371, and we budgeted $65,766. So you got a little bit of room in there. Spent about 31%. So that should give you something to work with. Personnel expenses, year to date, $276,143, and we budgeted $615,570. So we're about $339,427 in the budget through the first 6 months of the year, which is about 44.86%. Building maintenance is running high, $11,541, and we only budget 2,600, so we're well over on that. Vehicle repairs, 15,544 through the end of December. We budgeted 20,000, so we may exceed that. And last thing, dispatch service, 11,952, and we budgeted 24,535, so that's running under budget. Looks good.
Our financial wizard got any questions over there?
No, it looks pretty solid, the big line items this month, so everything looks pretty solid, thanks, Brett. Looks like everything says percentage wise, pretty much on cue, and, you know, to get as far as that goes, doesn't look like we're way over on that.
Move to accept the finance?
Yeah, make an approval, or a motion to accept the financial report as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So be it.
Move to pay the bills?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
What happens if we don't want to pay the bills?
They hand out our personal phone numbers.
I think where they were debating whether they said yea or nay a while back, at least right before I joined. Anyways. Good Lord.
Vote not to pay them yet.
I just find it interesting, so I wanted to ask.
Mhm.
I think we're in correspondences then, is that right?
Do we have any correspondence with you?
No, the only thing is in the, believe I put it in the front of your notebooks, is a thing about the SDAO conference. They have switched to completely virtual, so if anybody does want to attend it, we can definitely do that. It's all virtual now.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's not gonna cost us as much that way either.
Exactly. Actually, I believe the last thing I saw from SDAO was they were not going to charge because they had to do that.
Nice.
So I think that's still the flyer for when it was kind of in person and virtual, but they're switching they're going to eliminate a couple things, but go straight to virtual. But if you go on the website that they have, I think it's right in the front there, it'll show the whole list of what they're doing and stuff, so.
Yeah, on
and the
this one, it
different
says
days.
the virtual still costs.
Yeah, that's before they changed it.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
I think I've still got it in my email. I can forward to everybody the information about the virtual stuff.
I think I actually already got an email from SDAO.
You probably do. I think they send it to all of us.
Yeah.
It's like the SDAO little news things that they send out weekly.
Alrighty.
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Our IGA discussion, I think we kind of discussed that somewhat already, or you want to talk about it more? Or?
We originally, put it on there, looked at possibly even executive session to do a contract review, but the ORSs didn't really match, and we didn't want to create a conflict by not having an ORS that matched. So we put it on there just in public. The context that was used at their meeting last week, I found very concerning. They seem to be creating this narrative that we tried to go in there and take control, which is absolutely not true. They created a narrative that we were the reason why their equipment was not being taken care of, when actually we made sure that included that in guidelines and our operational schedule to ensure their equipment was checked. It's really not our responsibility to take and send our mechanic to go fix their stuff. We just notify, and if they don't fix it, they don't fix it. So for me, I think that some of the things that they were saying that made its way back to my desk was a bit concerning. I was also concerned with the fact that one of their board members made a flat-out motion to just end the IGA right then and there, and it was seconded. Another board member said, hold on, let's have a discussion. The question was asked of, is there anything that shows that the IGA was a detriment to Seal Rock? And of course, the people who were not new said no. And then they said, have we done anything to try to fix the IGA at this point? No. Then why are we trying to get rid of it?
Yeah, I see when you
So-
made those comments.
Yeah. I also want to point out that it was stated that I went in there and provided them information on their budget and that they felt like I was just trying to be in control. I was asked by the board and by the chief at the time to run their numbers for them and provide them with what the payroll would look like for the next fiscal year. And that's what I did, and I put it all, and you were at the meeting, you and Todd were actually both at the meeting, that I presented that to him, and I basically said, here it is, I've done all the math on writing, so you can see it, and provided it to him and said, if you have questions, feel free to ask, but here's what you asked me for. And so I guess I'm having a little bit of confusion as how that's taking control of them, but, you know, I see that as offering them a favor, I guess, so. So I want to kind of make a point that I'm not a fan of people creating a narrative unless it's a true narrative.
Absolutely.
And so that's where my feelings are right now. It's not my place to say we should have it, we shouldn't have it, that's your place. It's my place just to take your direction when you say go and meet with the chief or not. So what I need to know is at the last special meeting that we had, the direction was the oversight committee was reestablished, and that turned out to be Catherine and Buster, and that the oversight committee was going to go and set up a meeting with their oversight committee, and they would meet, and it wasn't, at that point, it wasn't, hey, the two chiefs need to get together and hash this out. If that's the expectation from the board, I need that direction.
No, we're planning on meeting with them. I mean, definitely, we're planning on having the oversight thing. I think the concern for me, I understand, and as we spoke earlier, I understand your frustration, your concern about that narrative. And on the, how do I say this correctly? They obviously feel that they have a truth, right? And you feel that you have a truth. And somewhere, we need to meet in the middle. And I don't think it's helpful in the moment for either one of us to be doing this he said, she said, I did, they did, this and that, and it just creates divisiveness. I, at this point in time, would much rather meet this in an air of curiosity and ask them and approach them and find out what these concerns are. Then we can have a conversation about how to meet them or where we've already met them or what we can do differently, what they can do differently. But I think to continue the narrative of, well, I did this, but he did that, but we did that, and that did that, is just pointing fingers, hello.
Camera fell.
Is just like, you know, two teenagers hashing it out on Facebook. I think that we need to look at this and come at it as, you know, a little top level here and meet them and have the conversation and not come in at it, you know, with this like, you know, we're right, we did this and you're wrong. I want to hear what they have to say, and I would like to, and I'm going to hope that we can rectify this relationship. It's imperative, I believe, for their community and ours. And I'm going to hope that once we get through this, that it'll be even better and stronger than it was before. That's my intent.
So there's a couple things I think need to be clarified, and I provided each of you a copy of the IJ, because when we talked earlier, you said your
Right.
copy had some like draft edits in it, which shouldn't have gone out, but if you look at the IGA and you go to section 2, termination, renewal, and amendment. So at their meeting, they said that they wanted to essentially give us notice that they wanted to meet with us and come up with a new IGA that met both districts' needs by May, or we'll let it lapse. The IGA does not lapse in May. The IGA is an annual IGA. It renews every December, at the end of December on the 31st. If there are no conflicts with the IGA, it auto renews. If there are conflicts, the districts need to meet and resolve those conflicts or give 90 days notice to exit the IGA. So the IGA does not lapse in May. I don't know where they got May, other than the signatures for the most recent update were signed in May. If you read section 2, it says right there,
Right,
December 31st.
Right.
yep.
It was also conveyed to me that they were referencing the district guidelines as the IJ. The district guidelines are not the IJ. It's a 42 operational documents that guide us on scene in how we do our operations. It is not tied to the IGA. Both districts adopted them together over a year ago, and so therefore we're both expected to follow them in general, but they are not part of the IGA.
Right.
And so I think that needs to be clarified as well.
I think we'll be addressing all of these things in that meeting.
Yeah, we're gonna go through yeah.
So,
That's coming up pretty soon, we're gonna start talking about this.
but all of you should have this
Yes.
copy, which is the actual signed
Yeah, I got
copy.
one.
Yep, thank you.
So, it's not a PDF without signatures, it's not a PDF, it's the signed copy. Obviously, it's copy, but it's a signed copy.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, moving along to new business here. A resolution,
So this resolution is for EF recovery. So they are the ones that, bill insurance and stuff for different calls, things like that. What this resolution is they are going back over the past year and going through all of our calls and seeing which ones are billable. They will also be taking over more, so that it's less on us, less on the guys to gather information on scene, things like that, so that they can bill for us. And then it's also so that instead of having to do a resolution every time we want to change rates, this allows us just to review rates and make changes to them as needed. As we were told, we were not charging enough on some things. So we are currently updating rates, and I put kind of the schedule of fees, which they also need, so I also need that signed as well too, so that they can legally charge for that. What they do, and just for the general public that doesn't know, EF Recovery, when we submit a claim, and I'll still be submitting the initial part of the claim, and then they'll kind of take over from there, is they go through and they pull police reports, crash reports, anything like that. If it's a district member, they do not bill. They will kick it out. If it is a auto mutual aid, they will kick it out, unless it's negligence. If somebody causes a car crash and they're under the influence, they will bill. If somebody starts a fire because of negligence, they will bill for that, if it's a district member or not. But if it's just, somebody got in an accident, freak accident, whatever, and it's one of our taxpayers, they will not bill for it, they will kick it out. But they do all that legwork, and this basically gives them the ability to do it. So it kind of goes in conjunction with the resolution we've already done, which allowed them to do the billing for us. Just looking at what they have gone back through the past year, so they went from January to September, and then once we do this, they can go from September to the end of the year and find any that we may have missed. So just from January to September, there's $10,000 sitting there being billed. Waiting to be billed. As soon as they have this, they can actually click submit. So they're all pending. So that's potential income for us that they can get for us. And so that's what this resolution and then the cost recovery schedule of fees is.
We have a resolution with them in place. This is essentially an updated resolution to allow them to continue working.
It goes with that because they have to have all three. So they have the initial resolution, which allows them to even do anything for us. And then they need this so that they can do more and so that we can update our fees periodically without having to do a whole new resolution every time.
All right, want to make a motion to approve the cost breakdown for billing resolution that was presented?
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so be that. All right, and we got our surplus equipment.
Yes, so you should have two surplus letters with your packet. One of them is the 2003 Dodge Ram 2500. Now that we have the command vehicle in service, we are ready to rotate that out of service. We've listed it on Gov Deals. It's not going to go through for 2 more weeks, but it's listed on Gov Deals and it's already technically sold for $8,000. So the bid's going up from there. We're just going to keep getting more as more people bid. If you guys do not approve of the surplus letter, of course this was expected last week, then we'll just pull it off the auction. But we have no reason to keep it. If we keep it any longer and it falls apart, we're not going to get anything for it. So selling it while it's still working and running and in good condition is in our benefit.
It's the best time to get rid of it.
Amen. I make a motion to approve the surplus of that.
Yep. And the letter has the VIN, the mileage, and year, and all the specs on it for record keeping.
Okay.
The second surplus letter is the SCBA fill station that is housed in the Connex next to our MCI trailer. Of course, that thing is very exhausted. The new rescue that we got came with an air fill system on it. It's actually massive compared to that one. If you read the article that was recently put out, it fills like 240 bottles before we even get down to the limit
Yep.
of having to refill the storage tanks.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a lot of bottles, so. That system was certified last week. We had a rep from MES Fire come out who is able to certify the filters and the compressor. They did so. He's coming back out to help us to get past the CO sensor. We just gotta figure out how to get that in tune. We already had it in tune, we just gotta get it back in tune again. And then he also sent off for an air sample. So as soon as that air sample comes back clean, we are ready to just use that truck from here on out.
Nice.
And we can get rid of the one in the Connex, which also means we can get rid of the Connex.
Right.
So next month, if everything pans out, you may see a surplus letter to get rid of the Connex.
Great.
So, but we need to declare that air station surplus so that we can sell that off too.
Okay, you got compact air, Mako, and then you got,
Yeah, so it's a compressor with an air filter, air fill.
that's all the same thing?
It's all, yeah,
Okay,
it's all in
okay.
there.
So then we vote to get rid of all of them.
I separated them out because there's 2 serial numbers.
Right, okay.
So we already got a motion and a second for the first item. Can we get a vote on that?
Oh, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. We better do one for the second one then.
I'll make a motion to surplus the second item mentioned.
And I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So be it. Okay. Looks like a union negotiating committee.
So we need 2 members of the board, and I'd like to maybe see either Kevin or Rita, just because I've done it before for this first round, to be identified by the board as the board's representation going into negotiations for contract review of the union. So it's coming up, it'll be coming up on us, and we're just kind of getting ahead of the curve.
Right. I can do it, yeah.
You wanna do it,
Yeah.
Kevin?
Somebody else really has a hanker to do it.
Rita in or out?
Oh, so much fun the last time around. Yeah. I mean, I'm more than willing, yeah.
All right,
Well,
awesome.
it would be beneficial to have one person who's done it before and one
That's
person
true,
who's
one person
learning
hasn't.
how to do it now. I'm okay with Rita and Kevin, but I just want to put out there, it would be beneficial for someone else to learn how to,
No, you're right.
go through it
When
too.
when are the union negotiations?
We don't have them scheduled yet, we're getting ahead of the curve, so.
Okay, well, just the middle of April, I'm gone. So they can't have one in April if I'm gonna be on it.
I'm gonna look back at
We just have
Shai.
to get them done by what? September? I think you believe they again. September?
We have to be done with them by
September,
September.
right? That's when the contract
They
expires.
should receive, you guys actually should be receiving notification here soon.
The reason why we're getting started so soon on picking is because last time we thought it was gonna be easy. And it was still like 6 months.
Oh.
Oh, it definitely will be.
And
Yeah.
also, to be fair, that was a different process. This was to be basically an update to those.
Yeah, this one's not gonna be starting from, I mean, we were pretty much starting from scratch last time.
Okay.
Well, I'll be happy to be on that committee so I can learn the process.
I'm more than happy to, so.
You and
Unless
Kevin?
Rita
All right.
has big desire.
Thank you.
I'm fine.
Maybe slide
Actually,
on.
I can offer myself as an alternate, simply because a lot of times those meetings are during the day, or,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
true.
if someone's schedule doesn't permit.
Okay?
So, You're our alternate, I like that.
That's good.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, well, now we get the chief report.
Chief's report. So Mackenzie is still kind of just waiting for us to say what we're
Yeah,
gonna
we're
do.
kinda
We're still
waiting
trying to
too.
figure out what we're doing,
Yeah,
Chief.
yeah. So we've been trying to get the quotes to come in. We're working with Mackenzie now to help us with some of these quotes because we're dealing with projects that are high enough up, it's gonna force us into prevailing wage.
Yeah, it's not
And-
gonna be cheap stuff, but.
No. And so getting quotes from local that's prevailing wage is not panning out very well.
It's not so much the rates, like a couple of people I talked to, and when I was in contracting, it's not so much the rate, because you can obviously bill for that, you know, it's the paperwork involved. There's so much daily paperwork, because it's a state-run project, that it's just overwhelming to a lot of the smaller.
It is, I agree, I know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I did make some phone calls for you guys, but I'm getting.
So you're looking at some bigger outfits and the paperwork.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we've asked Mackenzie to help identify some groups to go to that'll
That is
get
a
us
big
some.
job.
We've got a number for the roof, I won't say it, but
Right.
if you come and ask me for it later, I can give it to you, just because we're in public session. But we don't have a verification that that number is based off prevailing wage. So, yeah, these are high costs, that's why we identified these things, because we know that these are gonna cost us a lot of money. And that's why we wanted to have those on hand to say, okay, well, how about these things when we're trying to get into negotiations of any sort? So, Rescue 72 and Command 700 are parked outside. We'll go outside and do a quick walk around for anybody that wants to stick around and see them. We'll set up the night scan, which should create instant daylight for everything around the vehicles for us.
Yeah,
So, ISO, like I said earlier, I think a couple months ago or so, we did get our ISO evaluation back. We did improve to a 4 from a 5. We are going to be releasing that publicly next week because next week's the 1st, right? Next week, the rates actually go into effect. So everybody needs to contact their insurance and say, hey, our ISO rating went from a 5 down to a 4. What's my premium now?
Yeah.
So, we're saving you money. Just remember that. This is good.
I'll
Related.
let you know how much.
Maybe around May and November, remember that. So we're saving you money. WVCC, it took almost 6 months to get our MDTs back from our dispatch service. We're about to switch to a new CAD program, hopefully next year. And the issue that we're running into with the old CAD program was that it was built originally for the Windows 7 era. And with the new Microsoft.
That's way old now.
Yeah, with the new Microsoft, it's not liking it. So Eric's been spending a lot of time trying to get past those hurdles with the software and get them all set up. He also has been working with our AT&T rep, and our bill's gone down significantly by clearing out the old MTTs, clearing out some old cell phones that we didn't know we had, and getting it cleaned up. So he's been doing a lot of that, and every now and then I can tell when he's ready to throw the MDT like a frisbee out of the office. So I send him out to go turn a wrench or something on something else to break up the monotony. So, but they're there. The one for the engine's already in. It's got some login glitches every now and then, but it's mostly functional. I believe the one in your truck is in and running, and then the one for the command rig is going in last, now that it's up and running, ready to go. So, like Eric reported in his report, we've met all of the cybersecurity measures that SDAO's insurance is required of us. So we are now up to date with cybersecurity. I honestly really have no idea what that means, other than if I have
want
to
to say
change,
that, but.
if I have to change my password, I'm going to be upset. So,
Every 6 months.
yeah.
And that was one that you've used before.
Nope.
You
Yeah.
keep putting exclamation points up.
I think the big thing is that we're protecting our records, we're protecting our documents that we keep in house, and our system is being backed up on a regular basis. So if anything should happen, we can get our system back up and not have this massive,
And it's being backed up off-site, so even if the building burns down, we're not going to lose everything, so.
yep. But if that building burns down,
Then you're in trouble.
yeah. I already talked about the school programs, so grants. We had a meeting with Ryan this morning and members of FEMA about the Building Resilience and Communities grants. They were able to ask us a bunch of questions that they needed to further their processes, and all the answers we gave them, they were very happy with. So I believe even at one time, Sophie, which is one of the FEMA reps, said that you're like at 75% success rate just from the things that you're talking about. Of course, the tsunami zone is, always going to be a, hey, what about this? And we tried to explain that. I also had contacted our ISO rep, and moving the station further west and creating a larger gap between the main station and the Tidewater station would not allow an exception. So if we move the station to any of the properties that we looked at that were up off of the 101 corridor, up near the U.S. Forest Service, up near Copeland's, it will open up a 1 mile gap of unprotected land between us and the Tidewater area.
No exceptions.
No exceptions. Yep.
No.
Yep, I kind of knew that was going to be that way, but I still asked him just because, to make sure.
What about your idea of putting in a substation down here?
If we put in a substation, then we're good. It creates a new 5 mile bubble, and then we can move essentially our headquarters all the way up to Dahl if we wanted to. But
That's
we'd
true, if you
have
had a
to have,
substation,
yeah, we'd have to have that substation. One of the things that I am looking at is we've moved our reserve engine up to the SLR building. The SLR building has power, the SLR building is heated. So essentially, if we were to call that vehicle stall there a fire station, that creates a new 5 mile bubble. I have not had the chance to run that mileage on that bubble yet. So there could be,
That much, huh? Yeah, check it out.
there could be a possibility, but most likely not. And that's because where the station is now, the issue is east to west, not north to south. That creates a bubble that's south. It doesn't fix a bubble east to west, if that makes
Right.
sense. So I think that ultimately we'll still end up with a gap between King Salmon and near Taylor's Landing area. So so we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, ultimately it was a good meeting, and we gave them good answers that they were looking for. So
Well, good.
other grants, so the seismic grant, of course, is on hold. I'm very certain we've already passed the deadline for this year, so we'll have to wait till next year.
It's just not really working out.
So that's charitable. I'll be putting in the second round for fire hose. They did give us a $2,500 grant for fire hose this quarter before this last one, the one we're currently in. So next quarter, I'll be putting in again for the remainder of that fire hose. They actually told me to do that, so. The FEMA staffing for adequate fire and emergency response. I submitted the application about 2 weeks ahead of schedule for 2 firefighters. They keep moving the deadline. Apparently some agencies are having some issues with the systems awards management programs. We're not. I actually went in there just the other day and updated ours. We're good till 2023. But others are, and that's affecting the deadlines for the FEMA grants, so they keep pushing them back. Every time they push them back, they also means it changes when we're going to get notified of award. So I don't have an award date just yet. I also submitted the Assistance to Firefighters grant for the wildland tender to replace the tender. It'll replace the tender that's out at Five Rivers, which is a 1981 tender. The tender at Tidewater will move to Five Rivers, and the new tender will move into Tidewater. If we get it, it's $467,000 covered by FEMA, and I believe we're paying less than 20 for our portion of it.
Wow.
So,
Got it.
yeah. The staffing for adequate was $427,000 in payroll for the 3-year period to cover those 2 positions. So,
Okay.
yep. I also am about 50% of the way through a fire prevention FEMA grant for electronic reader board for the station
Oh, yeah.
to get rid of that one that's trailer borne, and then we'll be able to update the messaging on the board via a computer
That'd be nice.
in the station. The windstorm flipped that trailer over and caused damage to that trailer again. And the windstorm also took out our main sign that was up on the highway. We thought something struck it, that something was in the wind struck it because of the way it broke. But either way, we contacted the vendor. He's making a new sign, but he's adding metal to the top and bottom.
Because it's made of what's called MBU, so it's flexible to a point, and it's very lightweight. It looks heavy, but you can literally just go. But, so what he's doing, and the screws they originally sent were only that long with the metal brackets, because, you figure it's pinned between two big 6x6s on metal brackets, so screwed in. It held, but I think it started to flex too much, and then you can see an impact point when you put all the pieces together, like even a shingle that some of the screws are getting will break it. So he's also adding a rigid piece of metal on the bottom, since that's a square part, that'll help this, and then I'm gonna use some longer screws to where it'll go further into the sign to hopefully lessen some of that flex, so.
And
As long as
we-
it doesn't hit again.
And we submitted that into our insurance for storm damage.
Oh, good.
So that we should be getting that covered by insurance. We're not actually paying for that. I talked about the building quotes. We're still actively pursuing those, but we've seeked out McKinsey to help us with that. Action items, the CERT trailer's probably gonna be done this week, if not early next week. The last picture he sent me, he was just having to put the actual CERT logos on it. So he's already got the wrap done, he's just putting the CERT logos on it. At that point, it'll come back here, we'll purchase the materials that they need to build their shelves, and it'll get handed over to CERT for the rest of that project at that point. Five Rivers Water Supply is an action item for budgeting, so we won't do anything of that until we get into budgeting. I was talking with Brett, he asked me before the meeting started, we're gonna get started, our ball rolling with budget beginning of February, so it's that time. The ambulance 72 lease share is completed. Obviously, we're going to go outside and look at the vehicles. And again, I just want to take the time to show our appreciation to Jeff and the Pac West and Metro West family for coming to us and making that offer and helping us see that through, even with all the patience he had to deal with FEMA and we had to do with FEMA. And, that ended up being a great outcome. We were able to give them an ambulance to add to their system, and we were able to get a medium rescue and a command vehicle for us.
It's a nice addition.
And it didn't cost us a cent.
That's the way to do it.
Yep. Jet dock. John, do you have anything update on the jet dock?
I've been in contact with the company, they're sitting waiting on us, and we're waiting on the port. Rita was applying for a grant to cover the whole project, and she's still trying to get bids on getting the electric on.
Okay. So that's moving forward. We're just gotta wait for the other half of the money and the electrical to get in. Engine equipment continuity list. So the inventory list is completed, and then in our equipment fund for next year, our equipment levy will be identifying the equipment we need to bring our engines to mirror image engines. And when I say mirror image, I don't necessarily mean the exact same type equipment so much as the exact same equipment. So on our first out engine, we have battery operated chainsaw, circular saw, Sawzall, et cetera, whereas the engine that's up at Tidewater will have gas-powered chainsaw, gas-powered case saw, things like that. So they'll have the same equipment, but not the same type necessarily, if I'm clearing that up. So the action items for the SAFER grant and AFG are completed. They're all submitted. There's really nothing we can do about that at this time. And then rope rescue, we've already started getting in the majority of our rope rescue equipment. And classes will start in February for everybody to get the ropes ops. And like I said earlier, we've already completed our fire officer 1, our firefighter 2. Those are getting wrapped up in task books, and applications for certifications are already starting to go out. So the goals that I had for the first 2 years coming in here are already wrapping up, and now we're expanding on our training at this point. So
Great, thank you.
that's all I have, unless anybody has questions.
We got any questions from the audience tonight?
Nothing in the email, let me just make sure there's no chat.
we gonna talk about the temporary hire or no?
Oh, yeah, that's not on there.
Would we
That
just-
didn't get put under new business. So in front of you, you have a packet. The first page says detailed cost sheet summary. So to clarify, what I'm asking of the board tonight is, we'll go through this packet, and what I'm asking permission for is to send this to legal and get the approval from legal. If legal says, yes, this meets all of Department of Labor and everything, then I'd like a secondary approval that's based off of legal's approval to be able to move forward, working with Brett to put this in place and start doing the hiring. So what this packet is it's a proposal for two temporary positions for the district. They're 8-month position. It's locked in at a rate, which you can see on the cost summary. I broke it down in the cost summary per item. And these positions essentially are to get us from where we are right now to when we'll have our funding for the SAFER grant, which I actually pushed it past when we typically see the awarding, the funding for the SAFER grant, because I put it to the end of September. So this will bring us back up to 2 on each shift for every shift for the next 8 months. And then when if SAFER goes into effect, we have to do a hiring process and hire on the 2 permanently. And it may end up being those 2. I can't say that it'll be those 2 because we have to do a hiring process per SAFER. But we will hire 2 on permanently, and those 2 will be based off of the SAFER funding from that point for the next 3 years. And then in that time, that 3-year period gives us the window of opportunity to adjust our equipment levy to cover staffing and equipment going forward.
So on that SAFER, do they become union members at that point?
No, these are temporary positions.
No, once we switch over to the SAFER.
Yes, once we
They are
switch,
union
yes.
members at that point.
Yes.
They're not union members until that, correct?
No, these are temporary positions, almost like seasonal hires. They are here for an 8-month period. They are locked in. They do receive certain benefits because I did counsel with Department of Labor and asked them, what are we required to do? So they do acquire their personal leave time in the terms of sick time. They are entitled to overtime if they work an overtime shift, obviously. What they don't get is the medical, dental, and vision because it's a temporary position. So, and of course, once they switch to SAFER, the people who are under that do get it's fully to the union contract at that point. This is a bit of a gamble because we do not know that SAFER is going to go through.
I guess a question to lead up to this, right?
Yep.
So we want 2 people on every shift. That's always been the goal for like the last 3 or 4 years, I can remember, right?
Yep.
It's always what we've been striving for. That was the main purpose of the IGA, right?
Yep.
So the reason why we are now needing 2 people is because Steel Rock has decided that they're no longer going to respond with us, right?
Yep.
Out of the same truck. So we are wanting to bring on 2 people so that we can have coverage
Yep.
in that scenario.
Yep.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
So my biggest problem with this, I guess I have 2 big problems with this. The first one is, we still have the IGA. And I don't want to hire on 2 people and then we've got 3 people on shift, which I feel like is an unnecessary expense. Unless you guys can get into me on this. I'm open to the idea.
There's currently a shift with 4 people.
What?
There's currently a shift that has 4 people on it. Obviously, they're no longer responding out of the same station, but
Yeah.
there has been 3-person shifts.
Yeah. So, but of all paid staff?
All paid staff.
Okay. So, I mean, that's fine, but in this sense, I just don't know if we are able to bring the IGA back together where we're able to respond together. I just don't see that there's a huge need for this, right? So that's my first issue. The second issue is if we're hiring somebody now at this rate, 9 months beforehand or 8 months beforehand, right? I don't know if we're going to get as qualified candidates because they're not going to have benefits, they're not going to have all these things. They would be, let's just say we get candidates that are really great from out of area that apply, they probably wouldn't apply for this because they don't know, they're not going to move here for a possibility of 3 years, but it could only be 8, right? Whereas if they're like, well, I'm guaranteed at least 3 years, heck, I'll move to the coast for 3 years, right? So I guess that would be my 2 issues with approving the extra expense for this. And that's my opinion. It's my opinion.
Right now, in my, just what I've experienced on my side of things, like today, Shai ran 2 calls and was on scene by himself for both calls a couple times for almost 10 minutes. And it's happened on every one of his shifts. As, you know, yes, I'm here as maintenance, so if I go, I went on one lift assist with him to help because he didn't want to have to wait for Seal Rock to come clear from the middle of Seal Rock down here just for a lift assist. So it's fair, but you know, the idea is the safety behind a firefighter. I mean,
I 100% agree. I 100%.
Most of the time-
I want more than anything to have
here,
firefighters.
here in the last month and a half, I've listened to these guys, both Seal Rock and, because I listen to the scanner 24 hours a day, almost, unless I'm sleeping, obviously, but pretty much all the time. And I've listened to these guys get on scene, and they're there by themselves at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, for 5, 10, 15 minutes before the next guy shows up. So from a firefighter standpoint, safety standpoint, they have just walked in the door and could be stabbed, it could, you know, especially if it's an EDP call, if it's, I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen anymore. So that's my biggest concern, and why it's obviously, I hope the IGA works. I hope that the committee can make it work, because, and get it back. But from what I'm hearing on the street, if you will, the current interim chief is never going to allow them to respond on the same truck out of the same station. Not gonna happen. So,
On that, on top of that, if that's the case, we're gonna spend $70,000 and stay in an IGA that gives us no benefit. Just to make it very clear in the room.
If I get shot on scene, how much is my life worth?
No, I'm saying we're gonna basically, like, we're gonna spend $70,000. This is gonna cost $70,000 because the IGA is breaking up. I just wanna make that very clear. Alright?
I think what I hear you saying is either A, the IGA works and we don't need those extra, or
Correct.
B, if we're gonna spend that much money, what is the point of the IGA? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Thank you.
It's a fair question.
Well, I mean, that's where I'm at. I mean, if, you know, if we're gonna spend this money, I say we just leave the IGA. We have what we need. We don't need to sit here and spend time and effort and money into training and into whatever else we do to help Seal Rock if we already have the coverage.
Yep.
So my thought is if we decide to do this, we also are pretty much deciding we don't need the IGA and we leave the IGA. That's what I'm putting out there, basically.
And then- and
So,
I-
well, hold on, 1 second. We all agree, a firefighter responding by himself is unacceptable.
Yeah,
Yep.
100% agree.
Yep,
We all,
yep,
all right. We're doing that right now. I went on a call with Shai yesterday because he was by himself and it was a chest pain, and we need, if that ended up being an actual, you know, we need people. We can't wait 5, 10 minutes for the next unit to finally arrive while one person's going back and forth between chest compressions and trying to breathe for somebody who's not breathing no more. So, yes, I really hope the IGA is going to get resolved and get fixed. I don't know, and I don't know if they will come back to you, hey, let's put them all back on the same truck again and we'll rotate here and there. I'm not going to get into my personal opinions about it. You know, so I hope it'll work. If it doesn't, and between now and the time we find out it doesn't, I have a firefighter by himself.
how often do you have a firefighter by themselves? 'Cause
2
he-
shifts.
8 days, 8 days, 8 days consecutive.
8 days
So how is it that before you were saying you had 3 and 4 people and now we're down to 1 person for 8 shifts?
So we have 4 firefighters, and Steel Rock had 4 firefighters that were on the same vehicle. For one 48-hour shift, 2 people were together, and it was a crew of 2. For the other 2 48-hour shifts, 3 people were together, and it was a crew of 3 for each one of those. And that was the total of the 8 people split. When we split, and they took their crews back to the Bay Shore Station. And keep in mind that they spend, you know, some of their time up at the main station in Seal Rock as well. The 4 split. And so 2 ended up on one shift, and that's John and Cody are on their shift together. And Charlie and Jared are on their shift together. So for 2 days, we end up with 2 in Seal Rock and 2 in Central Coast. For the other 4 days of the rotation, if you will, we end up with Shai by himself and Derek by himself, and we end up with Joe by himself and Nick by himself.
How does that happen with 4 shifts? I'm confused.
3 shifts.
Okay, so you've got John and Cody that do a 48-hour shift, correct? Okay.
Yep.
And then you're saying you have Joe that's by himself doing a 48-hour shift?
For a 48 shift, yep.
Okay, and then you've got Charlie and who?
So Charlie and Jared are Seal Rock.
Oh, Charlie and Jared are Seal Rock. Got it.
Nick is Seal Rock, and Derek is Seal Rock.
Got it. Okay.
So for 2 shifts, we have a firefighter by themselves. Eric and
Now that makes sense now.
Eric and I are trying to fill the gap and going on calls, which takes us away from our primary duties of doing chief stuff and maintenance stuff. And that's fine, and we have no problem with that. You know, we were always running a lot of calls anyways. But it's still, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and Shai leaves from the station to go to a call and it's upriver, he's leaving from right here, I get up, I get dressed, I get down to my vehicle and I get on the road.
And so 10 more
There's
minutes.
still gonna be a time gap between when I get there and he gets there.
No, I got you on that. Are we
So-
having any of these 13 volunteers signing up for shifts or coming in and doing things, or is that been
Not for
any-
shifts. They come in and they'll take another vehicle out. They're even further behind us typically. And I don't want that to sound negative at all. I'm extremely grateful when a volunteer comes down and staffs the vehicle and comes to the scene. But they're also getting up in the middle of the night,
Oh, for sure.
getting dressed, driving down to the station.
What happened to you before, like when John used to volunteer back in the day, you would sign up for shifts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an anomaly.
I knew that.
So, I mean, you can't really count me in
But
there.
also too, Casey used to sign up for shifts.
Casey, he was another,
Right,
whole
you-
nother anomaly.
so I'm trying to figure out.
We have 2
They were-
volunteers that are able to do it maybe once a month for one 24-hour period.
Yeah. We have a stipend and it's not being utilized. We even give them, if you would, a reimbursement for their time. It's not much. We can't, you know, PERS and bullying everybody, but, and it's still not really, you know, bringing in a lot of people who want to stay here and stay for free at the station for 24 or even 48 hours, just out of, you know, the kindness of their heart.
18-year-olds.
Yeah, I mean, you know, when I was 18, I lived at the station. I was a
Well, that's what
resident
I'm saying, all
volunteer.
the stations I used to be affiliated with
Yeah.
had living quarters, and there
Yeah,
were 2
I lived there, I got free
people
rent,
that lived there, yeah.
and I got free utilities, and I went to college, and,
Yep.
you know, and I ate a lot of mac and cheese, so, but I was a
Agree that-
firefighter.
That we need those people. We don't have.
I know, I hear you.
I'm by myself.
Yeah, I hear
No,
you,
no,
and I don't
I-
want you by yourself. Trust me, I know what it was like as somebody being by themselves.
So then my question, Kevin, I understand where you're coming from, like, your
Yeah,
points are valid.
yeah.
But who cares if the IGA works out, we got 3 people on a shift? I'd rather have a 3-person engine if we can have it.
I know, but, you know, in everything in life, right, there's limited resources.
Sure.
You know, we don't want to just spend money unnecessarily, right? Like, we don't want to just throw money out because we're worried about this right at this exact moment. I'm worried about you. I don't want anybody to, like, I was literally thinking about this last night at breakfast. I was outside, I walked out to my truck, and literally, because I've been pondering, we talked about it, and I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, you know, I'm going out, I don't have my gun on me, going out in the middle of Walford. I'm like, man, it'd be sketchy if somebody just walked up and like did whatever. And I was thinking about you guys walking into these random houses by yourself in the middle of the night, right? I mean, that sucks. Don't get me wrong. So maybe as a good solution here, you guys are going to meet with Seal Rock next week, right?
Yep.
Okay. I would say, if you guys meet with Seal Rock and they say, absolutely not, we will definitely not be responding together. Not a chance. That is we are hard on that. Then I would say we do this because we
So-
have to have 2 people, right?
I'm
So
in
the
complete
reason-
agreement with you. That was what I was gonna suggest. It's a middle
let's
ground.
have
The reason why we're being led to this solution, this outcome of feeling like they're not going to put their personnel back on a Central Coast engine is because part of their issue that they took with this was they felt like Seal Rock was not providing a perception of having their equipment and their personnel responding.
I understand that, but
So-
let's give it a chance, chief. Let's just give it a chance.
Well, on the,
Yeah, so what happens when there's 4 Seal Rock guys, right? So Seal Rock may or may not hire any more full-time people, okay? And it'll just be the volunteers. What happens if these Seal Rock guys get jobs elsewhere?
Yeah.
What then?
Well, hopefully, we'll be at the point where we'll have the 3-year period, right? We'll have the
The
2 extra staff at the end of the year, right? But we hope it carries there. Or maybe we get 6 months or 2 months down the road and we don't have coverage because it's not gonna work out, or they all leave, right? And then we need to hire one, then we hire one then. But right now, like, if we could literally in the next week have the coverage, why are we spending $70,000 that we can spend on a million other things that we probably need if we don't have to?
I no longer am speaking from the union.
Yeah.
I'm speaking as myself, as a firefighter, member of the district. Based on the attitude that I saw from that last board meeting, and I'm not trying to cast shade, I'm not trying to say he said, she said, I'm telling you what I saw. There is an unbridled animosity from that board towards us, towards the firefighters, towards the boards, towards the
Yeah.
chief. To sit there and listen to the way they belittled my chief
I know,
for almost
yeah.
an hour was embarrassing and very, very frustrating.
I was upset as well.
They are hung up on the complacency of their predecessors and are not going to see past that. And I'm not willing to put my safety in the fact that they might have a change of heart. Kevin, I need a partner.
Yeah,
I
I
cannot
understand.
respond alone.
Can you give us a week? Is all we're asking for. Give us
Okay,
a week.
okay, but if
Well,
on
we're not
my
gonna
next
hire
shift, on
anyone
my first
tomorrow.
call, you get to call my wife and tell her why.
Well, your wife versus my wife, obviously they care about you and your family. That's not the
I
question.
understand. You gotta understand, this is my safety
I understand.
that we're talking about. This is the safety of Joe.
Yeah.
This is the safety of Derek as well, and let's take their safety into account here as well. I can't speak for them about what they're gonna do, how they're gonna hire, how they're gonna staff, but Derek's by himself. That's my buddy, that's my partner.
Yeah.
Okay, these guys, they work through Seal Rock, sometimes they're gonna be by themselves. I worry about that. It's not fair to anybody to have to be by themselves. And to put this limit, like, oh, hold on, we gotta see if maybe they're gonna come around. Based on what I saw on that meeting, I have absolutely zero faith that that's going to happen.
I understand it.
And I don't want to put my safety in the hands of that.
So I have a question for Chief. So with what you're trying to propose tonight, how long would it take you to bring these 2 people in?
Well, so what I'm proposing tonight is to send this off to legal.
Okay.
And that could take a week, and we could take 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd
So
like
in
to
that
still send it
1
off
or
to
2 weeks,
legal.
You've already been met with Seal Rock for the IGA.
Right.
There's
Yeah.
no reason you can't go, nothing's not gonna happen, no harm, no foul, but you at least get the process started now.
If,
Right.
if,
Yeah.
if legal came back at the end of next week and said, yeah, Jimmy, this meets all of the requirements of the law and you can do this, I know I have people who are ready to step into these positions right away. So I'm not worried about whether we will fill them. I will tell you right now, I've been told by people, I will step into these positions right away. And obviously, those people will have a leg up on the hiring process in the SAFER because they're gonna know exactly how everything works.
Yeah.
So, but SAFER requires me to do a hiring process if we get the SAFER money. So I'm just putting it
So
all
I'm on
on
board
the
for definitely sending it to legal.
Okay, if you want to motion that, I'll second that to
Yeah,
take it to
but
legal.
before we
But
get
before
to
we move
there,
forward.
I just want to make one point.
Mhm.
If we decide to do this, and Seal Rock is not willing to respond to calls with us, I will never be in favor of the IGA from then on. I'm just putting that out there. I mean, we're a board, I'm saying my personal opinion, and that is based on, we literally went into this with the sole purpose of making sure our firefighters were not responding alone.
And to save resources for both communities.
And to save resources, I guess, but that was literally the biggest whole point of it.
I've
right?
had conversations with, all of you
Yeah.
at different points, I think, over the last month. And I think you all know that there's a level of frustration that I have that I'm really holding in. Because when we started the IGA, and I'm gonna keep pointing it out, when we started the IGA, It was a Seal Rock emergency that had a Seal Rock responder by themselves that was ready to quit on scene of that call that initiated we will never have firefighters by themselves ever again. Because it was a car fire in front of a garage that had an occupant in the garage that trapped her in the garage. And they were on scene with a brush rig trying to put out a fully involved car fire until our engine arrived. And that firefighter was so overwhelmed, he was ready to quit right then and there. Quit his job right then and there and leave. And we said this is the safety level that we will not drop below anymore. Okay? Now, if we want to get into an argument about what station they came out of, fine, we could do that. But I'm not going to argue safety.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
agree 100%.
that's what this started as. We've bent over backwards to help out Seal Rock. We've provided them with training. We've provided them with resources. Their fuel bills, their utility bills were decreased significantly because we wanted them in our engine because our engine was a custom engine that provided more safety and more seating and carried more equipment. We offered the crews the choice of what station they wanted to stay at. They did votes. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, by all means. They did votes. They continued to vote to stay here in Waldport because there was more space, there was more bedrooms, it was more comfortable. They had a workstation where they could do their projects during the day. They had better internet. I mean,
Accessible to the public.
it was more accessible to the public. Yeah, everybody's getting hung up on the fact that they were coming out of the Waldport station, like all of a sudden Seal Rock just didn't exist. Seal Rock existed, and we took care of their community right alongside their personnel as a team.
Well, what we're all forgetting, we're literally the same community.
Right.
We damn near throw a rock and hit Seal Rock from our fire station across the bay.
Yeah,
mean,
I live 100 feet inside their fire district, so
My kids go to daycare.
You know?
In Seal Rock Fire District. Like,
I might
not
start
like I
showing
want
up at their
out.
meetings as a
I want the
taxpayer.
but I'm getting frustrated
I hear,
by this whole situation.
Yes.
I'm very frustrated. And
I-
it could end up costing us $70,000, which adds to the frustration.
I agree with all of the frustrations. Again, I think we need to take a big breath. I hear your frustration. I hear your worry. I hear all of it. I really, really do. I also know that what would be in the best interest for both communities is maintaining the IGA, is sharing resources, is sharing all of that. And if that means instead of letting the firefighters vote what station they stay in, we work out a deal where they're half in Bay Shore and they're half here, then so frickin' be it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
let's
fine.
give it a chance. Let's quit. We've heard, we've seen the letters, we've heard the board meetings. I've heard you, I've heard and heard and heard. Let's at least try to give this a chance. Let's have the meeting, let's have the conversation. I'm absolutely fine sending this to legal and having them review it.
Okay.
But then let's have a conversation after that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair
Thank
enough.
you.
Yep.
And we can meet with Seal Rock in the meantime.
Yeah,
That's the whole
it
point.
could take a week, it could take 2 weeks, you know, it depends on the
We'll meet with
Ross's
Seal Rock
schedule.
right away.
So,
I'll
yeah.
make a motion to send this legal.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry to take it over.
No, you're not taking the time, it's important. That's really important.
Okay.
So
You
getting
good,
back,
Dave? Everybody good on that one then?
Yep.
Okay. All right, how about the viewing audience now?
As I check, well, just so everybody knows, on Central Coast YouTube, when I'm streaming this, I put at the bottom a little scroller, and I set up an email that's PIO@centralcoastfire.net, and it goes right to my phone. So far, I haven't done anything, so, and when I went over there to check the chat, the only chat thing was there. I don't think I could say on public camera, so I will remove that as soon as I get a chance.
well, now I'm curious.
Yeah, now everybody's gonna be rushing to YouTube.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah. Go look now. Okay, well, that brings us down to our good of the order.
And I do have one question, and that is, where are we at with budget committee members, and how many do we need to, have we reached out to?
Usually we reconnect with them about March, and then if we find out that there's an opening, we ask you guys if there's anybody specifically you'd like us to approach. so we could start that in February if you'd like me to.
Oh,
And just-
I mean, I
with
just,
it.
I just wanted to kind of put it on the radar. And basically, that's just because I just went through it with the city, so.
So,
Yeah.
do you know off the top of your head if we're gonna have openings, or maybe Wendy even, do you know?
I would think everybody who did it last year, I think is pretty good to do it this year. I mean, I can put out email fillers to them just to kind of see and give them a
Okay.
heads up that we're
We'll find
coming
out.
into
Yeah.
budget season.
Okay.
We'll find out. Shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
Well, I didn't think it was a problem. I just
One-
wanted to,
One meeting a year unless there's an issue, so.
right.
Well, then I guess we'll adjourn the meeting. Thank
Okay.
you, everybody.
We'll open up the rescue and the Tahoe, if anybody wants to go out and take a look at
Yeah,
it, we'll turn the light on.
there's
and-
actually only a couple of them.
Okay,
And
so
have
I
it available for
sign.
everybody.
Sign those, okay. Becky,
Good, sorry.
we got that.
Oh, we're done.